So, I guess this is working okay. Probably don't even need it here. So yeah, first a little bit about me. I am an estimator first and foremost. I still actually do a little bit of estimating. I have a landscaper from Hawaii, big commercial landscaper that I do work with, and I have a drywall guy out of Southern California and a flooring guy out of Texas. Just enough to keep me in the game and enough to where my wife doesn't get too upset because I'm working at night. But I have such a passion for it. I got involved years ago with Mr. James Benham, which most of you have probably heard of James. I taught him everything he knows. Oh, this is being taped. No, I didn't. Honestly, I didn't. Actually, it's quite an interesting little story that I just want to kind of share with you. So, James came to me when they had one client, and I was working, doing work closely, and I was essentially doing takeoffs and budgets for anybody that would pay me, doing outsource estimating, quantity surveying, and whatnot. And through a series of events, my sales rep with OST said, hey, you need to talk to this guy. He's right in your hometown. He's starting a new management platform. And it's ironic, I was complaining about a product that I work for now. I was complaining about my square foot at the time, so it was kind of ironic. Anyways, James and I got together, and he said, hey, would you help me with this platform from the estimator's perspective? And the reason I like telling that story is when he said that, that has stuck with me for the past almost 15 years now, from an estimator's perspective. And I like to think that I do that, I have that approach on everything that I have my hands on. So tonight, I may not be the most eloquent speaker. You hear me say y'all quite a bit, and things like that. So, but it all comes from the heart. I'm an estimator, so I'm here to show you guys what I think is really cool. It's not BIM, but it's pre-construction. It's a new product. We do have some people using this, and it's going to be quite interesting. So, first I want to go into who is Construct Connect. Has anybody not heard of Construct Connect? It's okay, you can raise your hands, we're all friends. So you all have heard of Construct Connect. That's kind of funny, because we run into a lot where people have not heard of them yet. So, and why isn't this looking? Awesome. Let's start it off this way, I see.
I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I'm going to hand out the flyer for tomorrow because it has Katie and Mark's bio in there. So as you guys want to see who they are, you'll have it in writing to take home.
Awesome.
Holy Ash, if you're coming tomorrow for the classes, bring this back with you, okay?
Whoa.
We're going to put in 200. We're going to put in 200.
Oh, we didn't like it live too.
I don't know, might have to get Michael at some point. Okay, so we've done our introductions. Let's go ahead and get started here. So we talked about Construct Connect platform being the one place. And just to be really clear, Construct Connect is, this is weird, Construct Connect is all about pre-construction. We are not a project management software company. We're not going to delve into project management in the foreseeable future. So it's all about pre-con. I want to start about a little bit about our family of products. My guess is most of you have heard or are using some of the products we already own under the Construct Connect umbrella. Little timeline. It started with I square foot. Most of you, bless you, most of you have heard of, have used, or received an invitation bid for my square foot, or received numerous phone calls from a sales rep for my square foot as well in the past. All right. So, back in about 2014, they acquired Bid Clerk, Construct Data, and then CMD. Some very notable products that a lot of us have used in the past. Then in 2016, this is kind of out of sequence a little bit, but they acquired OnCenter, QuoteSoft, PlanSwift, and SmartBid. This put us in a real strategic arena. I mean, almost everybody in pre-con has used or is using one of these products. How many of you are not using any of these, or not familiar with them? That's usually the case. Usually somebody's using one of them, or they have in the past. So it put us in a real cool position where we said, okay, we have all this technology, all of this knowledge, wisdom as well, experience. How can we utilize that to put something a little better together? Each one of these companies has something very unique from the other. For example, OnCenter and PlanSwift. two completely different platforms. Both have their strengths, both have their weaknesses. Same thing with SmartBid and I²Foot. Their strengths and weaknesses. How could we kind of bring the best of breed together? And that's actually what we're doing, and that's what this platform is going to be about. It's a transformed end-to-end pre-construction, and we're going to have these key words that you're going to hear a lot. And when you start getting the sales calls, and that's not my fault, start getting the sales calls, they're going to talk about predict, promote, select, share, and prepare. And then we're moving on into the future.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Those dates below each of the brands, is that the date they became a product or the date you purchased it?
The date they became part of the Construct Connect family.
Okay.
Yes, great question. Yeah. Some of these products are very old. I mean, construction data went from paper to digital, gosh, 20 years ago or something like that. So a lot of these have been around for a long time. Some of the things that we get into are obvious, and I'm kind of going over the basics a little bit. But we have bid management, obviously. We have probably the largest collection of project information that there is to date. And that's what we're claiming now. I don't have all the statistics on this slide, but that's what we're claiming now. We also have a very robust risk management pre-qualification procedures that we offer. We actually have new services for that, as well as software that help you guys with that. That's all part of some of these tools that I'm going to show you. Takeoff and estimating, I think that speaks for itself. All the on-center products, QuickBid, DPC, Oasis back in the future, Oasis for MEP, and PlanSwift, and OST. This year, as are a lot of other companies, how many went to Groundbreak? None? Okay. There was big on integration this year, and I think you're going to see a big push. What exactly is that? Well, we're going to try to solve a lot of the pre-construction frailties, if you will. So a lot of times you have program A, program B, program C, and they don't talk to each other. And what we're trying to do is get those programs to integrate and talk to each other. You're going to see a big push this year on API. A lot of companies are opening up their API, which means they're just giving endpoints for programs to talk to each other. I'm not a tech guy. I don't speak techniques very well. I'm just an estimator with a passion. So, but you're going to see a lot of movement this year, and we are going to be very upfront and foremost on that. We're going to do a lot of integration this year. And then we're also offering custom services. You're going to hear me talk a lot about this probably tomorrow as well. I'm old school. I believe strongly in relationships over digital anything. I use digital as a tool. It still comes down to relationships. Sometimes it means picking up that phone and calling that sub, like really talking to them. And sometimes from a sub's perspective, the same way, calling the GC or whatever the case is. We offer calling services now on some of our platforms. We will call your subs for you and get them to fill the pre-qual out while we have them on the phone. Isn't that an interesting concept?
Yeah.
Going back to 80s technology. Anyways, that's a little bit about us on those things. You're going to see this project lead, which is lack of a better word for it, because I don't like that word. It's called project intelligence. But where do we get all of our projects? Obviously, we have all the data and all the processes that CMD, construction data, bid clerk. We've all seen those. We've all used those at some point. We have all of that technology that they have, plus all the personal relationships that they have with architects, owners, engineers, whoever, however these projects. They have a huge team. We've got over 400 people that's all they do. Not counting the tech that we use to go find stuff on the internet. We have stuff set up that will actually mine stuff and find projects as well. It's a wild ride if you watch how they get all of these projects. It's pretty cool. So with the Construct Connect platform, and we call it Project Intelligence instead of Project Leads, because Project Leads sounds really lame to me, and I'm glad they found another term for it. But I'm going to explain this a little bit as we move forward, and I think you'll understand it more. It helps you find, prioritize, and manage projects, and it does it in a very, very unique way. It's not just like, here's a bunch of projects, you set your filters. How many of you used, like Dodge or any of the other, even BidClerk, some of those, that's kind of how you had to set it up. It's just filters, right? We're going to we advanced that considerably. So when you log into the new platform, these are the key items that we have. We call it promote. These are the 5 buckets that we have. I'm not going to go really deep in all these. This is going to be high level, just enough hopefully to spark some interest in you. The very first thing is what's called promote. So if I'm a subcontractor, for example, promote is where I'm going to receive currently invitations from any general contractor that's currently using SmartBid, iSquareFoot, or this platform. All of those bids, invitations bid, will come in one spot. The next is predict. And this is where it's pretty cool, because that's where projects come in. I've set up these predict preferences, we're going to talk about it in a second. That's where these funnel in, where I don't have to filter through them. It's already done all that for me. I had an interesting conversation with David about all of the projects that come in, if you're a subcontractor especially, that you have to weave through to see if your scope's even in that project. How much time is wasted just doing that, right? Sometimes you actually have to download all of the documents, or hopefully they have a viewer that you can actually do it. Still, you're wasting your time to find out there's nothing on here for me, right? We've all had that happen. So this is where you're going to find the projects that actually meet the specific criteria, the trades, the region, the scope value, all of the preferences that you select. It's going to bring those into one bucket for you. We have a feature in here called the watch. It's going to be real familiar. It's a star. Everybody has seen these on different programs or software where you click something and it goes to your favorites. It's kind of like that. Projects that you mark as that you're watching, if you mark one as watched, anything that happens to that project, addenda, new drawings, anything significant that changes from the owner of that project, you're going to be notified with a specific task to review on what happened. And it will stay there until you actually do it. All right. The next is share, which is kind of unique. It's very similar to select, but let's say Eric and I are on this platform. I find this project, I count there's 35 trees, so I know that we're going to do it, and I'll send it over to Eric and I'll say, hey Eric, this has about 35 trees, I think we should bid it. He'll have a task over there if anything changes on that specific project. And the last is prepare. We actually have an integrated takeoff program that works right off of this. So when I find a project that I like, I don't have to go download the plans, I don't have to go rename the plans, I don't have to do any of that. It's already in here. And in my takeoff, if there's any addenda or anything that happens on that project, it notifies me, plus it's already set up inside the takeoff program. I can use the overlay, it's already built in. I don't have to think about anything, it's all in there for me. It's pretty amazing. This is the full screen. It's not customizable, not too much. And I won't go into a whole lot, but it has a calendar, and you'll notice each one of these, when there's a light, it's a hyperlink. You can set tasks and notes for yourself. Finish takeoff by Friday. Review this project by Tuesday, whatever the case is, and it's all inside the calendar. It'll show you exactly different projects that are due. We have a very unique company watch list too. Remember I mentioned you can watch a project. And that simply means I'm categorizing that, I'm tagging it to put it in a little different bucket for me. Do the same thing with companies. This can be used a ton of different ways. So I'm going to tell a little story. I don't do sales, right? I don't do numbers. I don't like messing with numbers. I just want to help people. So I had a unique opportunity a few months ago. One of the sales guys, many sales guys called and said, hey Mark, there's this big trust company about 2 hours away from you, and they're looking at the platform, but they won't let us do a webinar online. Would you go up there and show them the platform? Absolutely, but I'm not going to talk money. I'll show them everything, etc. So I get up there and I show them this platform, and I show how they can do company watch and how they can find projects and all this other stuff. And they're like, this sounds great, but you know, we don't need leads. We don't need them. Projects are handed to us. I said, okay. So I want you to keep that in mind, right? If you're one of those people where I don't really need leads, I'm going to show you a couple of unique ways that you can use this. Remember, this is just a tool. It's just another tool. And there's several different ways to use a tool. How many of you use anything other than a hammer to nail a nail in the wall for a picture? Crescent wrench, against wires. Right? Okay, it's the same principle here. Honestly, it's just another tool. So there's some unique things I can do in regards to company watch. I can see what my competitors are doing. And a lot of GCs get kind of nervous when I say that. But I can see, there's a couple different things I can do with that. If I'm a GC, I want to see what J.E. Dunn's doing right now. If I have that information in here and it's in my subscription area, I can actually see what projects they're bidding on, the post-award, who the main players are in it, who the engineers are, the whole design team, and then all of those, I can follow those too. I found unique ways where I can watch in Dallas. I know a lot of GCs will not do work for the Dallas Independent School District because they're just really tough to work with. So they'll look at a project. If it comes from them, they won't even bid it. So they put them on their watch list to make sure that they know what projects they're involved in, so they don't even have to worry about them coming in. They'll actually filter those out so they don't get ITV from them. So remember I talked about the predict preferences. This is where you're going to set up, it's almost like setting up your profile. You're setting up your age, I like walks on the beach, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of like that. Right. So it's actually pretty simple. You're going to set up some trades, what kind of buildings you work on, what kind of status. Now the status is kind of cool. Most people say, I just want to see what's bidding right now. Great, and that's what you can say. You can also say, you know what, I'm really interested in conceptual and design. What's coming down the pipe? And you'll be surprised what information you have in here that you may or may not already know about. Now, if you're Eric, you probably know about it way before this point. But anyways, also the sector, if it's private or public, you can define that. What kind of value of the project? If you're a smaller contractor and you're not bonded to do bigger stuff, you can filter that down. And then you can also watch specific companies, however you want to. Now, companies does not just mean general contractors. Companies can also be owners, designers, architects, you name it. We actually even have service contracts in here. So if somebody's looking for, we say lawn services, big commercial accounts, those are actually in here as well. You can define if you even want to see those or not. So these seven buckets are what help define your predict preferences. This is still a little broad, but it's going to filter out a lot of the noise. And those projects, based on all this criteria, are what come in that predict preferences bucket. Now, normally, that's exactly what these would be. These projects would say, hey, it matches all that criteria. I take it a step further, and you can set up what's called search tags. Now, I already know that these projects are worth looking at, right, based on my predict preferences. But I took it a little farther because I really like the visual on this. And I said, hey, I want to see, in case if sod's in that project, irrigation, pavers, landscaping, trees, like this one has all 5 of those. Even though it's small, it has all 5 of those. This one has all 5 too, even though it's relatively small as well. But it gives me a good visual that fast about what's involved in that project. I can choose now, do I want to watch that, and I'll click that little star, or I'll go ahead and open it up right now, start doing the takeoff, whatever the case is.
Is it based on the spec sections that are uploaded, or how do you guys get into the weeds on it?
Very good question. So we have some specific algorithms. There's a Boolean that you can set up. You can say, I mean, it can go as deep as you want. You can say, show me projects that have pavers, but no this and that, or this, or whatever you want to. There's some searches in here already set up that we give you examples of, and then you can tweak those a little bit if you want to. So you get very, very specific. Yes, sir?
Do you use a word search, or do you just work off a CSI?
It'll do both. So I'm looking right now, I'm basing these, we OCR all documents. If anybody doesn't know what OCR is, I call it's optical character recognition. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but basically we're ripping all the text off, not just the specs, the plans themselves. So all of that, it's looking for those words anywhere on those projects. Now what's unique about that too, is once I set that up, when I click on a project, it highlights that word wherever it is in those documents as well. Now, back in the day, I learned a lesson, it took me about 4 projects to learn it. I paid for fire dampers quite a few times because I would get there on the mechanicals. I was young, and it was a mistake that I made. And I use that example, like now, I would go in and type fire dampers, so I want to make sure I find out exactly what mechanical they're on, so I make sure I send that information to the drywall guys, just as an example.
So to Mel's point, what if it's a graphic depiction, it's a construction detail, it doesn't have those exact words?
Then it won't.
You won't find
Will.
it.
Then, yeah, there's nothing.
It'll indicate.
If it's in the scope, so if it's in the scope, the written scope, or it's in anywhere in the documents that text, that string of text is, it'll find it. Pretty cool. So, and the estimator in me just geeks out on this. Like, this is absolutely amazing because I think of all the time I can save. Now, this is all great for anybody that's sitting in front of the computer, right? It's also on the app. All of this is on the app, iOS and Android, which is pretty cool. By the way, you can set your notifications. If you want to get notified anytime one of these changes or a project comes in that you've been looking at, changes from conceptual to final planning, now you want to kind of gear up for it a little bit more or know about it, you can set it up on your phone to send you a text, send you a notification, right? I don't have to rely on sitting in front of my desk or reading my email. By the way, I'm going to sidetrack this a little bit because I mentioned email. So I did a talk at Groundbreak about email. Did you know that half the planet has email addresses now? There's over 4 billion. Why does anybody in construction care about that? Because email is our #1 means of communication right now. And construction, out of 43 of the top global companies, globally, construction-related emails are the bottom of the barrel. They're the most abused, they're the most spam, they're the most unsubscribed out of everything. So, how do we attack that? Well, send faxes. No, we don't want to do that. Apps like this are going to help. They're going to revolutionize that. I talked to people at Groundbreak that actually wanted to build in with us and give text services. I'm like, we've already ticked the subs and the GCs off with email. I mean, we all do that. You get junk every day. We're going to repeat that with texts, and then they're just going to ignore those too. Apps give that individual what they decide what they want to get. I think it's unique. And that's what this does too. So all of this is on the app, which is just phenomenal. It's dynamite. I forget where I am now. So, if I go back, let's say I find one of these projects, I just simply click on it, and it gives me all the basic information. This is all typical, right? You expect, when you open up an invitation to bid, you expect to see certain things. I would like to think that iSquareFoot, Smart Bid, even Grade Beam, rest their souls, actually helped develop something like this. If you see a new bid management solution on the market, it's almost like you expect very specific things that it better have, right? Well, we do that and then some. So, from here, I don't want to waste a whole lot of time downloading the plans. And this is nothing unique where I can click Open in Viewer. A lot of programs already have a viewer, right? There's a viewer that you can see. We take it a little step farther. Oh, by the way, there's a picture of the app. There's Android and the iOS. This is where the doc viewer. So not only does it have a doc viewer in here, it actually has a quick takeoff in there as well. Have you ever used a free version of like PlanSwift or OST or whatever? You know how you can do a count linear in an area, only per project. You still have to download the plans, et cetera, et cetera. This is all ready to go, like that fast. So from this project here, you'll see there's documents, there's web takeoff. If I'm just perusing through the documents that are already named for me, and let's say you don't do anything else, but get this far and you just download the plans. Fine, you can do that. They're already named for you, they're already categorized, you don't have to worry about that. And I was talking to somebody earlier about some of the unique names that you get on the file names, right? Then you have to go through and rename them. It's already done for you. If you're a GC, which I'll show some of this towards the end, you can click a button, we'll process all those files and rename them and sort them exactly as they should be on the manifest. But if I click the web takeoff, this is where I'm still deciding if I'm going to bid this project or not. I don't know. It has trees in it. I know that because my search tag showed it had trees and everything else. I'm going to do a quick little takeoff and see here's the word tree. This is all the documents all the specs, addenda, all the actual plans that have that word trees on it. So it's isolated those for me so I can get a quick look. Wow, there's a lot of information on trees in here. It could be. It could be. See, that's why you have to be careful. Right,
Yeah.
right. So you have to be careful about what you, like with landscape, I would use landscape. So it covers ing and and everything else after that. So you can be very specific. It's like when you're searching in Google. The more you put, you know, the less you put, you're going to get better results than the more you put. Does that make sense? Okay. So I decide, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little takeoff. Just like those other programs I was just mentioning, I can do an area, one count, or I can do that condition throughout the plans. A count condition, a lineal, and an area. I can do all three of those. What's so great about that? There's other programs that actually do that. Well, we've shortcutted everything to this step. In real time, this would have taken me a minute to get from the project to this point right here. So I go through and I add a quick little count condition. I check my scale. Always check the scale. Always, always. And I do a quick little count. There's trees. There's 67 trees. We're going to bid this, right, Eric? There's 67 trees on it.
It's got some meat on the bone.
Yep, there you go. So, from this point, let me make sure I'm on the right slide that's coming up next. Oh, it went away. Okay, I'm going to have to wing it. All right, cool. This is where I've taken that takeoff, in the web takeoff, in the, we'll call it the viewer version. I've decided, no, we're gonna take this off. I push it to take off with a click of a button right here. I've already done my little takeoff on here, but I can't do much more. This is just my decision-making portion of it. Push it to take off. I push it to take off, and as a little side note, one of the unique things about takeoff is I can decide who can see what plans and what they can do and what they can't do. Okay? So keep that in mind where you're looking at this too. So I go through, now I had those basic tree counts. I'm converting those to what they actually should be, right? Now I'm converting them to the actual trees that they need to be and the actual conditions that they need to be and so on. This now, let me back up. This is the actual takeoff program, the full-blown takeoff program. This next slide, in real time, back in the project section, I'm seeing the takeoffs populate on here. I don't have to pay that guy for the license to just see what I'm doing. So it's in real time. That's awesome. And the other thing is I can have 20 people doing takeoffs on this project at the same time on the same set of plans. No server issues to deal with, no licensing issues, no floating licenses, no checkouts, nothing like that. I'm speaking kind of to you. So, I mean, it's really super unique where it does that. Now here, I don't know if this is going to work. This is going to show you, I'm going to do a quick little takeoff. On the right here, this is the actual full-fledged takeoff program. This is me over in that project section, and we call it CCPI, Construct Connect Project Intelligence. I'll just get the acronyms out of the way. That's CCPI. This is CCTO, Construct Connect Takeoff. So if I click enter, there we go. So I'm going to do a takeoff right here, this little sod piece, and in real time, as soon as I click that, boom. Over on the other lead, the whole office, whoever is looking at the project on the other side, if they need that information, superintendents, project managers, owners, whoever has access to that project on the other side does not need access to takeoff. Now, what it also does immediately, the moment I push this to take off, it locks it here. I can't do takeoffs on both sides here. My takeoffs now are going to only be done in the takeoff program. There's some nuances in there, but it's very specific, and it's for a specific reason. Otherwise, you're going to have people doing takeoffs that shouldn't at this point. Think that's cool? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Question for you. So, let's say I've got this software package, and I have a project come in and we upload the drawings. So what you're seeing here is, as those drawings are uploaded, it automatically populates those sheets and tells you what those sheets are.
So if you, let's say you're going to bid you got a project, you've got the plans on your server. Before I do that, I would double check to see if we already have it. It's what we call a curated project. If it's negotiated, we probably don't have it, but if it's,
That was my question, more than anything, negotiated.
if you would upload the plans yourself, and then there's a process when you upload those, which I'll show you here in a little bit,
Okay.
excuse me, where you can say, it says a default, process these files. So if it's a combined PDF, it will explode them, and we'll rename all those.
Okay.
Now, that's when, I mean, if it's a substantial sized project, it could take 24 hours to rename all those and sort those correctly.
Okay.
But I think that's a fair swap. I haven't seen it take 24 hours myself, but I've been told that that's what the parameter is.
So with this, there's no downloading.
No, sir, there's no verse. Okay, let me correct that. Katie, can you explain Katie's in charge of all the training for takeoff, by the way? How we explain the Construct Connect takeoff snippet.
Right, so the Construct Connect Takeoff is a program you have to download on your computer, whereas the rest of the programs, CCPI and Web Takeoff, Doc Viewer, all of that you can get to through a browser. Right, so there's no download at all. But you do have to download Construct Connect Takeoff, even though it's a cloud-based solution, because it runs faster and more efficiently with a thin client, so we've designed it to be downloaded that way. That's the only thing you have to download, though. You don't have to download drawings to your local machine if you've gotten them from the curated packages in CCPI. Was that your question?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So
It just goes directly to the program.
So we
I'd like
can
to
view, decide we want it or don't want it, move on.
And the
Want
other,
this one, then we can start taking off.
that's right. The other thing that's fantastic about that, having come from OnCenter space myself and, you know, now have close buddies from PlanSwift that I work with all the time, is that because this is all connected with addenda, change orders, updated, anything, Construct Connect Takeoff will automatically update with new drawings. It'll serve it up for you, and it'll match it up to the original so that it makes life really, really easy for you to compare them.
PowerPoint's all messed up. I like to think of it this way too, so all the data for the project is in the cloud. The part that makes the CCTO work on your computer is a snippet that's on your computer, it's about 250 meg snippet. But I can have that on this computer, my computer at work, and another computer, and I can access that project itself without any flaws. It's identical. It's reading all the data online. Does that make sense? Yep, you just log in from wherever you can, as long as you have that snippet on that machine. Aw. Really, you're gonna mess with me on PowerPoint? I apologize. Okay. Now, nobody has seen this part of it, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit. I wanted to jump back and show you. So all of those projects, right? You have different ways we can watch these projects and whatnot. How do I manage them though? Which ones am I bidding? Do I want to track which ones I'm not bidding? I was talking, I think, with David as well. You get several projects that you don't bid or you do bid or whatever the case is. How do you track where they all come from? Because let's say, I don't know, you get some from ABC Construction all the time, but you never bid them. And you can look back, how many did I get from these guys last year? 150? Let's just call them and ask them to take us off the list. We're not going to bid to them. There's a way you can track all these. Nobody has seen this yet. This is still in staging. It's not released in the near future, but it will be soon enough. This is actually what it's called. It's a bid board tab. They're not calling it bid board. It's just another part of the program. I can decide which project's under review, bidding, bid sent, won. And again, this is the very first inception. I'll be able to filter all of mine based on whatever status they're in, because we thought about, well, wait a minute, what if they have like 200 projects that are won and 57 they're bidding? How do I look at those? Where you're going to have all these options to be able to segment those by. You're also going to have the ability to add your own projects. Remember, we talked about curated projects. Curated projects are the ones you found in Project Intelligence, CCPI. We call those curated. We're the one, we found those, we published them. You can add your own projects in here as well. Upload documents, push it through to CCTO. Yes, in the future, we'll also have the processing for the files so that they'll rename the files for the subs and the GCs as well, even on this end. So that bid board is going to be pretty phenomenal. This is still in staging, so I haven't seen what it looks like on the app yet. But if it looks like anything else that I've seen, it's going to be very user-friendly, even on your app, even on your phone. So, we haven't left the GCs out of this. Before I go forward, so remember I told you about the trust company. And they said, well, we don't need bid management, we don't need project leads, we just need one of your takeoff programs. I said, okay. So I'm thinking, and there's like 12 rednecks in this room, and they're beating me up pretty good. I'm a redneck myself, but they're beating me up pretty good. So I said, okay, hold on. You guys say that all projects are handed to you, because they're a big trust company. They have 4 big offices in Texas. And they said, yeah, we don't even go on all these things. We just download the plans. Ding. I said, oh, so each one of these, however you're getting these, who downloads the plans? Oh, I do. This other guy, oh, I do. Let's do something here. Let's figure out how much time do you think you spend a month downloading plans? It's only a few hours a week. Times 4, okay. We came up with a number, and I said, let's put a value on your time downloading plans. And the value came out to about $12,000, which was really low. And I knew it was okay. It was exactly what their contract amount was going to be. So I was like, okay, $12,000. How much value would it be to find those projects on here that are already on here, and the plans and specs are already there, they're renamed, and you don't have to download them because you're using CCTO, and it's ready to go. And like, well, that would be awesome. Then I started showing them, and I said, now you can also look at the structural engineers you like to work with. What other projects are they working on that maybe you don't know about? After that, it was just how do they put a value to that tool, even though it was in their mind it's just a project lead tool. It's much more than that. It's project intelligence. How do you want to utilize that tool? So they bought it lock, stock, and barrel, and they're very, very happy with it. They don't use it for leads. They could care less about the leads. That value of them having to download those plans alone with the size of the company they had was worth it. So I thought that was pretty cool to share with you guys. So the bid management part, let's say, so I find where am I at? Oh, before I do that, having worked with SmartBid for so long, and having worked with I²Foot, we used to battle head to head. And one of the key things I would always say about I²Foot was, your data is not private, right? And if you've used one of those, you know how that works. Some of these bid management platforms, it's not private, which is fine. If you don't care, then it's fine. SmartBid always used to praise it because your data is private, we don't sell it, we don't give it to anybody, da-da-da-da-da. With this program, you have both. You have your own network of subs, however you want to manage them, and you have access to the largest network of subs available right now, which is pretty unique. You can manage them with contact lists and all sorts of other bells and whistles that I don't need to go into, but it's pretty unique. We also have built in the consensus docs in SmartBid, in I²Foot, and in this platform already. The plans are, if you think about it, if a sub's entering this data on a consensus docs field here, and the GC allows it, or if it's a public record, right? If it's a public sub and he's already filled this out, if you're using any one of our other bid management solutions, the idea would be to push that information already. Right? Does that make sense? No. Rather than have the sub fill out the same consensus docs 5 times, if the sub already has that filled out, he just pushes it to whatever GC asks for. Make sense? Right now they don't. They have to fill it out each time. I mean, I've heard subs pains on this. 15, 20 pre-quals a week at some points, right? We also offer, I'm not selling this, I'm just letting you guys know. In 2 of the platforms right now, we don't have it in this one yet, we'll call the subs for you for a small fee. We'll call the subs and we'll get the pre-qual done for you, which I think is pretty unique. So, let's get to the meat of it though. So this is, if I'm a GC, I need to set up a project. There's a couple different ways I can do it. If I have a CCPI license, and for sake of acronyms, we're going to call this CCBM, Construct, Connect, Bid Management. Okay? I can set up a project. It's basic. You're putting in the project information. However, the moment, if you have CCPI, the moment you start typing in here, it starts looking for that project already for you. We may have it. and we may have all the documents. So you can actually start typing in there, type in Indian Creek, pulls up Indian Creek Elementary School, that's the one. So I go ahead and I click on it, and then it'll go through a little process. It'll say, hey, do you want all the documents we already have? Do you want to be notified anytime there's an addenda? Or do you want to just manage all the documents yourself? It gives you that choice to do that. It's pretty unique, I think. Again, this is inside the project, pretty basic. You have your documents, all the information, and this is immediately available. The moment I click that button, I say, yeah, add this, we're going to bid it. It's done, right? Same thing, I can go ahead on the next sheet, on the document sheet, there we go. I can push it into, there's a button over here where I can push it into Construct Connect Takeoff. Just like on the other screen, if I want to do it from the GC side, I can do that here. But here's all the files that were already from the curated project. I can even add my own if I want to. Maybe job site photos, maybe additional information that I have that I don't think the other GCs have, or my own bid form, or whatever the case is. You can upload your own documents here as well. Now remember, I talked about visual. I am a smart bid user big time because it has tons of bells and whistles, but you have to export everything and you have to manipulate everything. This platform is very visual on everything that it does. So immediately, I am in my trade section on this project right now, and I just clicked through, I got here within 20 seconds. Even if I selected the trades, by the way. There's an option in there. If I'm uploading my own docs, this is not a curated project, I can say, do you want to scrape the trades? Is that the right term, trade scraping? I'm trying to remember. It will actually look, it'll OCR the specs, and it'll add those trade codes to this project that fast. It doesn't mean you have to use them all. You can delete, like I would delete Division 1, probably, most of Division 0, whatever the case is. You can actually keep which ones you want to. The point is, I can get to this point, it's 3 steps. Add the project, add the bidders, send the email. You can do it in like 5 minutes, tops. So here's what I love about this visual here is it gives me what's called an engagement score. These subs right here with this icon are from our public Construct Connect database. They have an engagement score based on 59. It goes all the way up to 100. It's a proprietary algorithm that says there's a 59, we'll call it percent, 59 point, whatever you want to call it, rating that this guy will bid this project. And it's based on that algorithm that looks at the project data that we have for it and the project that they've set in their predict preferences. Remember we looked at that at the beginning. If they're bidding those constantly, proposing, we're collecting that data and telling you what the probability of these guys bidding. It will immediately start doing the same thing on your own private set, but that's private to you, that engagement score. So it'll start relating that information for you as well. Now when you start seeing subs that are up in the 80s and 90s, those are your good subs. And the more of those you see, gives you a better, warm feeling you're going to get better coverage on that project. Make sense? Any questions? So far? Okay. Again, keeping it visual from the GC side. Here's my trade codes. Green is good. Yellow is caution. Red means we got a problem, right? Most of the time, it's kind of universal. It's also telling me over here, hey, I got no bidders in plumbing. I don't have enough bidders. What does enough bidders mean? I can set goals on each trade code if I want to. If I need to have 4 landscaping bids, minimum, I'll set that goal to 4, and it's going to tell me red, yellow, or green where I'm at. I don't have to open anything up. I don't have to expand anything. I just know immediately where my coverage is.
So Mark, we talked about that a while back. You know, subs are fickle. I mean, we're juggling a lot of balls. We have more jobs than we can bid, always. We don't know until 3 days before the bid. This is doing any kind of algorithm for prediction, because we can't bid every job that comes in the door. We look at 30 or 40 a day.
Exactly.
Right? Have you thought about that at all?
That's exactly what this does, Eric. Based on your history, and we get that. We get it. There's nothing automated that's going to keep bugging you or whatever. We get it. You're totally busy. You understand that. This algorithm is based on what you've decided in the
So the
past.
sub can say maybe.
There is
I'm so, hey, there's a couple of drawings missing. I'm looking at one right now. True story. The drawings aren't complete. And my estimator's like, he's bulling up. He says, no, Eric, don't put this in front of me. Get it away from me. I mean, that's how my estimators are. They're kind of roguish. I mean, they won't bid some, at least 95% drawings. And so the day before the bid, hey, we uploaded the landscape plans, they finally got cleared through the planning now. It's kind of, there's still a lot of, what do you call it? Variables, unpredictable variables in my world.
I've heard so many things, you know, talking to, in the past, say, since 2006, tens of thousands of GCs and subs, probably, literally. I did all the support for SmartBid for years myself. I've heard so many different reasons from subs why they don't select yes or no, or even maybe. They're busy. This GC sends them stuff regardless, whether there's scope in it, they're just ignoring it. Or I've actually heard everything in between. I feel like I'm obligated. If I click yes and then I don't do it, I feel like I've let them down.
Right, does our score go down then? Because we're rated, these guys have report cards on us. The GCs have report cards on us.
That's basically what kind of, this is not a rating though. Keep that in mind.
It's probability of bid.
It's probability of bid.
Okay.
That, and we actually,
That's pretty cool.
the term for it is engagement score.
It's a probability, what the probability, this sub will bid this job for me on bid day, and not leave me high and dry. Yeah, nice.
And I think this is going to evolve into other things. I mean, there's going to be ways, I envision, I'm going to start using these engagement scores a lot differently. You know, I'm going to say, hey, don't even send it to anybody that's below 60.
You're gonna make me bond my, if I say yes, you make me bonded, right? If I back out, I gotta pay you 2%.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's what that engagement score does. Great question, great question. We talked about the goals being visual. Again, keeping it visual and keeping it light and easy on the eye. This also shows the activity for the sub. Each one of those represents, did they view the project, did they download drawings? There's also a very unique option here coming where if the sub is in this platform and he clicks send it to takeoff, it'll actually show you that here. It will not show you their takeoff.
They can download? You can download the PDFs and everything?
Yeah.
Or this is all cloud-based, right?
Yep.
If we
If I
download,
don't want to use all this stuff,
Yeah.
I just want to do it the old school way and I want to keep downloading plans, yeah, you can just download the plans if you want to.
okay, good.
I can't see why, if you had this, why you would, but you can't.
I'll take it some reason.
Exactly. But that's why we've left all that open too.
Nice.
So,
So you have options, yeah.
options. I'm all about options. So, this is pretty basic on the side. This is kind of our whole idea in a nutshell. So we talked about promote, predict, and some of these. We also are going to talk about different ways to submit, for subs to submit their proposals into the platform. We're looking at all sorts of variables on that. We've seen people try that in the past, and it's very unsuccessful. In fact, in SmartBid, subs can upload their proposals. What do we get? What do you guys get? Maybe 2%? Maybe. Maybe. Yeah. They're not doing it, so how do we get them to engage more to do that? And it's going to be tough. It's going to be really
Here's
tough.
another one. Mark, can we push, so we have 10 subs ourselves.
Mhm.
We're a sub, but we have subs. We have 150 suppliers.
Mhm.
Can I push these documents
sir.
to them?
Now, here's what's really cool about that. So the GC's like, absolutely not. I don't want Eric forwarding the plans on this, but if Eric, you know Eric, and you know that on this project it's going to help you, you can say, I'm going to allow, there's a setting here that says, I'm going to allow the subs to forward this. Now, here's what happens. Like in SmartBid, unfortunately right now, if I forward the invitation, my invitation to bid to you, you're logging in basically as me, right? But with this platform, if I forward it to you, it gives you a unique URL. When you click it, it shows the GC, hey, do you want to add this guy to your database? He wants access to the plans. Or you can say, if the subs forward it, let them, but it logs them in. It makes each person actually have a login. So they just can't randomly go in and view the plans. I can forward it, but they still have to set up an account, and then it's going to give that information back to the general contractor. Rightly so.
Once they've done that, they don't have to do it again for another project, though.
They don't ever have to, no, you're in the system now.
So if I want, like Eric said, if I want to send plans to one of my suppliers, get quotes.
Do it.
That's, right now for me, that's a big issue.
And what's nice about it is the GC has control of it too, so everybody's happy. They have control whether they can say yay or nay, and I can think of reasons when you shouldn't, but for the most part, you can't. You can forward it to that supplier. That supplier now has actually added to that project. Once you do that, the supplier clicks on it and says, okay, he adds his username, password, he now has an account. He's actually added to the system.
Okay, so my subs and suppliers are my secret weapon. Does
Exactly.
anybody else get to see my subs and suppliers? They're interested too. Is there any triangulation going on? You see that, I hate to say big brother.
If you look at
I
that,
understand what you're saying.
Eric,
I don't
You
have
don't
the answer for
understand?
that.
if you look at that, Eric is here, and he's got the soft plants and the trees, but he's also carrying pavers,
Right.
sidewalks, irrigation. If those three guys get pushed up to the GC, I know GCs that'll cut him out and get those numbers direct.
Sure.
And tie those to a guy that's just doing plants and trees,
Mhm.
and he'll build his own package
Yep.
and push Eric out of the way.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't, and I've done this before with what I've done, is I have my guys that bid to me, I don't want anybody else to know those guys, because that's how I get my work.
So I think what the question was, is if Eric forwards that invitation to bid, I'm a supplier. I don't have a login for I square foot.
You need a firewall.
I square foot logins will work on this too.
I'll tell you, you need a firewall.
Yeah.
Something that says,
But-
they can come and look at the project too, but you don't know they're my sub. They're just coming to look. They look at their account, and they like it. It's an elegant solution. But I don't want them to know that they're coming, that they're representing me until the bid day.
But we're assuming,
You need a firewall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer for that, but I will find out and make sure that.
I'll get some notes. We'll hang out tomorrow.
I would love that.
And I'll give you some notes, my ideas on this stuff.
Okay, and that's a great question, because now I see exactly where this is going. Does that
You become
supplier
Big
now
Brother.
become part of the network for everybody and whatnot? Or is it part of my private network?
Mel said it well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there have
Been
been
there,
days
done
for,
that, you
for
know?
like, big MEP trades that have multiple chains of numbers coming in.
Yeah.
If they were able to do that, that would save them a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, so that I don't know the answer. Let's assume either way, there's pros and cons. And we'll find out what that is. That's a
You
great
have
question.
hundreds of coders working on this, right? I mean, you can do about anything, it sounds like.
So if there's addendums and stuff issued, then your supplier will see that too?
They're part of that project now. Yeah,
So you don't have to forward anything on to them or anything like that, they're on
nope,
that.
they're on the project. Like I said, pros and cons, but I'll find out about that. That's a really good question. I can understand concerns about that too. Does that become available to everybody, or does it go automatically into the network? I don't have the
It
answer.
doesn't master some country's database.
Well, anything for lead generation, is always good, but again, not at the risk of breaking trust, so.
Yeah, so if I send it out to my subcontractor or my supplier, he logs in to you guys take his information and add him to your database then?
That's what the question was, and I don't have the answer to that. I'm gonna find out. So I'll make sure that Eric finds out this, I'll give the information to Eric, if Eric could transfer that information. It's a
Yeah,
good
everybody
question.
that's here tonight got their emails, I can push it through, and
Sure.
right back to them.
And it's a valid concern. Again, either way, there's still pros and cons. So it just depends on how you look at it.
All right, I'm sure you're balancing as you go. You're saying, we've got proprietary things going on, we've got fiduciary things going on here, we've got
Because
privacy.
let's look at the flip side of that, just for the sake of argument. In smart bid, and this has happened numerous times, same scenario. Eric forwards the invitation to a supplier. If the supplier's not really savvy on what's going on, he just sees the invitation to bid, maybe he didn't read the email that Eric said, hey, I'm sending you my invitation so you can just log in and get the plans. Don't change any of the information. Maybe he didn't read that part. He thinks, oh, this is all wrong. And he goes in and he changes your record to his company inside the system, and that's happened. So, again, we'll validate that and we'll find out exactly what the answer is. But great questions.